Welcome to The Process. I am your host, Dr. Masi Reynolds, by training an orthopedic sports medicine specialist. And in my world, we get to see the injury, we get to see the recovery, and we get to see the comeback story, right? The podiums, the trophies. But what we don't often see is the trenches. We don't often get to see the struggle behind that comeback. The team that we put together, both mentally, physically, emotionally, to get us back to where we are. And that's what these conversations are about, is diving deep into those trenches and really unpacking the story of those impressive athletes and humans. And Julia Mancuso is no different. I'm so grateful to have had her on. She is incredible, a 4-time Olympic medalist. She got a gold, 2 silvers in Vancouver, which I was blessed to be part of, and a bronze in Sochi. She is the most decorated female U.S. alpine skier in Olympic history. It's pretty amazing. 17 World Cup podiums, it goes on and on. She competed for over 20 years. She's a legend in the U.S. ski world. And beyond that, she's an incredible foiler. She's an incredible surfer. She's an incredible athlete. And this conversation is about the transition. Yes, we unpack some injury and recovery, but it's that transition and identity from world-class skier to mother, to wife, to water woman. And she's always done it her way. She's always had a unique, unorthodox approach to training. She lived on Maui as a winter sport athlete and just always did things Julia's way. And she's taking that mindset to transitioning to a water woman, and even as a parent, and how she and Dylan parent their kids in a little bit of an unorthodox way. And that's Julia's way. And that's always what she's found to guide her. And she talks a lot about that, which I absolutely love. You're going to learn more about Julia. You're going to learn more about how she approached injury and recovery, and how she just approaches life and thinks about what really matters to her. And as her brother-in-law, I've been so grateful to be alongside her through a lot of this journey and see that evolution from being a world-class athlete to where she is right now. And I'm just so grateful to her, and I love her, and I'm so honored to be able to have her on the podcast and for you guys to hear a little bit of this conversation. So please enjoy this episode with Super Jules. Before we get started, please remember that this podcast is for informational purposes only. The ideas and opinions shared here represent our own and are not meant to be taken as medical advice. Listening does not create a doctor-patient relationship, and we always recommend speaking with a qualified healthcare provider for any health-related decisions. This show is independent of our professional roles and reflects our own personal perspectives. Jules, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
I think we're on like our 10th episode now, or 11th or something like that.
This could be number 10. This could be the big one out.
And full disclosure and honesty, this has probably been the hardest one for me to wrap my head around. And I think it's because you're my sister. And I've been part of your life, and you've been part of mine for a very long time. And I have been struggling with how to start this conversation, because there's so many different directions we can go. But I will start, and I think I decided I wanted to start by saying it's been such an honor and privilege to be able to be your brother-in-law and see your magnificent career as a ski racer, and you blossoming and having the success that you have, and then that transition after your career into motherhood and into being a wife and into being an incredible surfer and foiler and all the things that you're doing. And so I guess what I'm saying is that I'm just honored and inspired by you, and just grateful to be in your life and to be your brother-in-law. And I just wanted to say thank you. That's why I wanted to start this. And so, yeah.
Thanks. I feel like it's kind of like we're living in similar paths where my career ended and I've gotten to see your career blossom. And it's also so fun to be able to recommend people to see you and to get your expertise, and then see them do so well. So
Thank you.
It's really fun. I mean, I remember when you and April were visiting me on the World Cup tour, and we always had orthopedic surgeons volunteering, and it was like, oh, when can we be that doctor?
No, it was rad. I mean, I think, and a big part of our relationship was why I got into sports medicine, did that too. And then your connections through the US ski team at the Stedman Clinic in Philippon, and just being able to be exposed to that early on. I'd be lying if that wasn't a huge part of like what I'm doing now and where I'm at, is because of that exposure. So thank you.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then also just, I think, watching how I've heard you say it too, your career has always been against the grain in so many ways. And then there's so many probably stories and opportunities for us to talk about that. But watching you do it kind of your way, Julia's way, whether it's training, whether it's how you navigated injury and recovery, whether it's where you lived, whether it's even the life that you've created right now. And in that also has inspired me to do that in my career. It's like, okay, well, this is the way that traditional orthopedic surgeons and sports medicine doctors have done it. However, I feel pulled, and my intuition tells me that we should go in this direction and do this as well. And I felt nothing but inspiration through that, but also success in my own world, kind of following your example in that too. So yeah, I guess we'll start by saying like, yeah, where did that come from? Meaning just like that, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to like not, train the way that they tell me. I'm going to, you said the other day, what'd you say? Intuitive training, all that. The unconventional, against the grain, Julia. Where did that come from?
I don't really know exactly where it came from, but I feel like in life, a lot of times when you are exposed to opposition or there's this pull, that we immediately want to fight back. And I felt like growing up and being an elite athlete at such a young age in sport, I was sort of confronted with a lot of no's. I got no's everywhere. And also in school, I mean, I'm not going to say that I was the best student, but I felt like I was constantly a little bit bored by the curriculum and maybe questioning like, why do I have to sit down and all this stuff. And I feel like a lot of the no's made me question why. I was just a curious kid, and I didn't just think that no was a good answer. And so from a young age, it was always like, okay, well, why are you telling me no? And then what is the point of this? So as I was sort of establishing my skiing career and wanting to, I think a lot of times I was always reaching higher and higher. So when I was in school, I was wanting to skip a grade and everyone was telling me no. And I was like, well, I'm bored, so I don't really understand. And I didn't take that for an answer. So in school, even I was like in middle school figuring out, okay, well, how can I skip a grade with just doing more work? And I figured out how to basically skip 9th grade and basically skip most of high school. So I did high school in 2.5 years, and very easy. I didn't work very hard to do that. I just figured out how to do it.
Right.
So
Right.
It was the same in skiing. It was like, okay, why can't I race that World Cup? Or why are you telling me no, that I can't compete against the more elite athletes? Okay, I guess I'll prove myself. And that was sort of when I used those no's to fuel my intuition. And instead of taking them as like, oh, okay, maybe you're right, it was doubling down on what I believed in. And I just kind of continued doing that my whole career. And I don't know, I guess from the outside, it seemed like it was unconventional. But for me, I also had an amazing mother who taught me sort of more about spirituality and the meaning of life. I think she went through a lot of tough things and had to look deep within herself to find peace. And she was able to teach us about that at a young age. And so we watched things like The Secret and even like really crazy stuff about life after life and, what is really important. We didn't have a specific religion, but she always taught us that there was more to life and that every day is a moment that you should be proud of and that we can choose our thoughts and our attitudes. And so in the moments where I didn't have great results skiing or I wasn't happy, maybe even I was sad because my friends weren't treating me well from a young age, it made me kind of question, well, what is the point of life? And what is the point of being an elite athlete if I'm sad all the time? Because if you look at the probability, like even the most winningest athletes in the world are losing all the time. So to be sad about a loss and to make it consume you was really depressing. And so I learned at a young age, like win or lose, I just want to be happy. And I want this career to make me happy and to take in all the blessings that just doing something that I love for a living. I mean, it also was a young age that I didn't realize it was going to be my living or my job. It was kind of just like, this is really fun. I want to go to the Olympics. And, you know, I competed at the Olympics when I was 17. So I didn't even know really what a real job was or what my life was going to look like. I just thought it was fun. And kind of after that, when I had failures and, well, even before it, I remember my first race in Europe, and I was 13 competing internationally, and I was just so depressed because I actually was able to get third place in, it was called Topolino. So it was kind of like a worldwide competition, but for juniors, like really young kids, like before you would ever compete against anyone internationally. And I remember I got third place in the slalom, which I wasn't supposed to do well in. And then I was the best GS skier for our country. So I was like, oh, I can win the GS easy. And I crashed on like the second gate because I made a mistake, and I was just so depressed. And I remember being in Europe with my mom, and we actually met up with April because she was at another race, and I just didn't even want to leave the hotel room. And it was kind of embarrassing because you're like, wow, I'm pretty sure it was my first trip that I'd remember in Europe. We'd gone as little kids, but we were in Europe, and I was with my sister and my mom, and we were supposed to do these amazing things. And I was just so depressed because of this race. And that was definitely an aha moment where I was like, this can't consume me. This can't consume my life losing. So then I was like, okay, everything I want to do in the future, I need to make it happen with intention and the real purpose. I need to connect with my own purpose. And my purpose is to enjoy and to inspire others to have fun and to do it in a way that not only makes me happy, but fulfills that purpose of moving forward, but just not getting, depressed on things.
Oh, well, you embody that. I mean, what I heard, actually, there's so much to unpack there. What I heard is that at a very early age, you, whether it's through Noni or, mom, that personal, or you said confidence, self-confidence, and having a purpose behind what you're doing, passion and a love for what you're doing, despite what you're doing, has been, super important. I'm seeing that, or I saw that early on with April, and how she carries herself with confidence throughout this world, just like you. And oftentimes talk to Noni about like what it was specifically that she did with you guys kind of growing up. And it seems like it was always, if you're going to do something with intent and do something with confidence and carry that confidence forward. And I've obviously seen that with you too as well. How do you, like when you're transitioning to, we'll go back to skiing and ski racing and kind of training. It's such a tough balance, like because you were elite and obviously one of the best in the world. How do you, like combine like that purpose and that love of passion and joy with like wanting to be the very best and wanting to be your best and wanting to continue to win, right? Because it is a grind, and it is, at some point, like not easy, and things don't come as smooth and hard, and there's failures, like, and it's not always joy and love. Like, how do you continue to push forward and be the best, in your sport, while at the same time, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's very hard to like,
it's always a struggle. And honestly, a lot of my triumphs and a lot of my best years came after the worst years. And I was actually in some crazy cycles where when I was on top of the world, something would happen, and the next season I wouldn't do as well, and it would just kind of spiral out of control. And then I would have to start over and build up again. But in some ways, it's almost like those were the reminders, like, okay, you actually have to work hard. Like, because when it was coming easy, it was almost like, oh, I don't want to mess anything up. I'm going to keep this easy flow and not try to do anything different. And everything seemed like it would be perfect. And then all of a sudden something strange would happen. Like, for example, one of my best seasons right after the Olympics, they changed the rules on skis, and they were wider and more difficult. And my ski company in particular only had one plate that was supposed to adjust. I had the tiniest boot possible. I had a 22.5, which is like a kid size boot. And it was like the same heel piece for someone with 32.5, and it was just moved. So there was this block that was fixed behind the heel, and I really liked the feeling. I was like a feeling skier. So if my skis turned easily, I was able to release, and I liked aggressive setup, but I needed to feel it to kind of choose my own line. Whereas a lot of people kind of lock into the position and really power through it. And this season in particular, I had to power through because I had this plate that wouldn't let the ski bend behind my heel. And I ended up with a lot of back pain after that season. So it was kind of like, it kind of came out of nowhere too, because this season I just kept getting kind of worse and worse and worse. I started out really good, but it was like obvious that my body couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And then I had to just like, I had one really bad season, and the Olympics were the next year, and that forced me to search for more. So there was that, and I had this similar thing with equipments later with boots, and so it just kind of felt like this weird 4-year cycle where I was doing really well, and then something brought me down, and I had to pick back up. So, I don't know. It's just a grind, but I feel like maybe those were the lessons that I needed to learn. It was like, okay, you're not just going to be on top all the time and figure it out and keep grinding. Like, we're going to throw some curveball at you to bring you back down to the bottom that you work back up. Yeah. So in a way that was kind of natural for me, unfortunately, but I was able to work through it until the very end when I couldn't quite work past the hip pain. But the other ways it was kind of fun. And also it taught me a lot more about life because I still learned those lessons. It was like, okay, things are bad, and you can't just keep throwing something different at it. You have to pick a plan and stick to the plan, because that's what I would do. I would be like, oh, this isn't working, and okay, maybe I'll try this and that. And I kept trying different things throughout my career. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I can't do it differently all the time. I need to stick to one thing. And I would keep a journal and just say like, this works for me. Right. This is my plan, and I'm going to continue to do this because I don't have time to mess around. And it always worked out in the end. Yeah. So I think that was a really good lesson for me. It's like, you can't just give one thing a day and think like, okay, this isn't working. It's like, you have to kind of analyze everything and pick the best path for you, and then really stick to that. And I feel like that crosses over in so many things in life. And that's where like our experience, our knowledge, our intuition can go into making a plan. And sticking to it is the hard thing, because sometimes the results don't happen in 1 week or 2 weeks. It's 6 months later that you look back and you're like, wow, I'm so glad that I did that.
Right. It's almost like we were talking on the way over here about adaptability. And it's almost like it's an amazing trait to have, to be adaptable. But at the same time, it's like it almost can go the opposite direction, where you're so adaptable that you can constantly change and move and try different things. But sometimes that's maybe probably not the best answer. It's to stick to something and like commit to that for a little bit before being adaptable and switch and change and do something else, right?
Yeah, you need the commitment to see, is this actually working? And then at some point, it's like anything will work for you if you put the heart, passion, soul into it and commit 100%. Yeah. And then, you'll find out if it works or not. But if you just are like doing whatever, it's never going to work out. I mean, it can, because you can get lucky, but I'd rather not play too much luck into it. I mean, there's always a bit of luck. There's always a bit of luck in life, but there's also a lot of calculated luck. I feel like people forget that. They think, oh, you're so lucky, but it's like, okay, actually I've been writing in my journal the past 3 months that I believe I can win, or I believe that this setup is good for me. I believe that this is going to help my health. I mean, I just feel like putting intention and writing words down and believing in them can be so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Are you a manifester?
I'm definitely a manifester. Speaking of, I just loved surfing and Tavarua. My first surf trip when my mom brought
I knew the answer to that, by the way.
I know. The first surf trip, I just think it's really funny because I used to wear this like Tavarua visor. Like, and I always thought, oh, that place is so cool, but it's way too hard of waves for me because, all you know about is restaurants and Cloudbreak and it's like shallow reef. And I'm like, I'll just go to Namotu. Don't tell.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden there was no room on Namotu, and I ended up at Tavarua and meeting my husband, and that's where I live. Yeah. So I love looking at the old pictures where I have like the very first surf trip I went on, the Tavarua hat. It's like so funny to show Dylan.
Yeah. Oh, it's so rad. Was it the Inertia that did that article on you guys recently?
Yeah.
Out there? That was so good. But they should have tapped into that. The manifesting.
Oh yeah, the manifesting. Sometimes I forget about those stories. It's so natural in my life that I forget how much.
That was a good article.
Manifestation
did a good job
is.
On it. I want to go back. You said curveball, and then you talked a little bit about your hip. I want to go back a little bit further. Obviously, the doctor in me wants to unpack a little bit about your story. And I don't mean to go kind of and ask you to remember all of it, but I do know that at an early age, you were diagnosed with dysplasia, hip dysplasia. And for those listening, what it means is a little bit of undercoverage, meaning the socket that goes around the ball, the acetabulum that goes around the femoral head is a little bit shallow, if you will. And so it creates a level of instability inside the hip. And then usually the adaptation pattern and growth around that is that the labrum that goes around the socket is a little bit thicker and bigger, right, than a normal labrum, and it's prone to injury and tearing. And that's what happened to you at a pretty early age, if I remember right.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how old I was when I first discovered. I mean, it started because I'd crashed. I had done like the splits in a race, which, crashing like that is semi-common in skiing because you're wearing two planks, but I was going pretty fast. I did the kind of the splits and crashed and just like had all this pain in my groin, and it was kind of unexplainable. And so I started going to doctors and trying to figure it out. I thought that I pulled a muscle or something, but I guess that's really common when you have labrum tear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the first doctor that I was referred to in Reno, I went in and I just remember it clear as day because it's like, okay, I'm at a hip doctor, and it was like there was not a single person in there under the age of probably 60.
I hear that all the time. No, I'm serious. Like people come to my office and they're like, "Oh, the second opinion." I'm like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "Well, I was in the other doctor's office, and it was like everyone was over the age of 65 years old." So.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I remember being like, "Okay," and this doctor is actually like, I don't remember his name, or I don't need to say it, but he was a pretty famous hip doctor at the time, and he was so abrasive when I came in there. He was like, they had done all the x-rays and stuff. I was with one of my physios came with me, and we went in, and he was like, okay, like, let me check you out. And, he was doing like the physical examination. He's like, stand on one foot. And he pushed me over, and he's like, oh, you're like 17. Like you should be able to stand on one foot. Yeah. And I was like, okay, like, what is that telling me? And so then he's like, he sat me down. If you're really serious about going to the Olympics, I mean, I think that at that point he was like also possibly recommending a double osteotomy.
Oh yeah. Periosteal. Yeah, exactly, where they rotate the cup over.
Yeah.
Which is a big surgery.
Yeah. He was like, hidden, like, you'd have to cut you open. And like, I don't know if you'll ever ski again. And I was like,
that sounds awesome. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm not that bad right now. Like I just have some pain, and I'm not great at balancing on one leg, but I'm not that bad.
Right.
And so then he's like, well, stand on your other leg, like my non-injured leg. And he pushed me, and he was like, you should be able to stand on that leg. And I'm just like, okay.
This is the first time I'm hearing this story, by the way. It's awesome.
I was like, oh my gosh. I looked at my physio. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, this is kind of crazy. Like, I don't know what he was trying to prove. And so he sat me down. He's like, you got to think of what you really want to do in your life.
He's like, you're weak. We need to cut your hip open. And
I was like, okay. And so I left that doctor's appointment thinking like, I am never going to that doctor again. First of all.
That sounds gnarly.
What the heck? And, okay, time for a second opinion. And so I just started doing physio, and I was fine for a while. I actually didn't get surgery then. It was still, I was young, and I just did a bunch of physio, and I started to feel better. Actually, I wasn't thinking about it much. I didn't run much. I sort of stayed away from high impact stuff. I found a journal that I was talking about my training, and That was kind of depressing because I didn't realize I was dealing with so much hip pain at a young age.
Yeah.
Like I do remember trying to do stuff, and we would go to camps in March or, after the ski season was over in April in Mammoth and do these drills on cross country skis. And I remember not being very good at it and crashing and kind of being like, this is painful. And I would always complain about doing drills because I would, like, especially one-legged things, I'd be like, what's the point? Because I had this small injury. And that was actually funny because looking back and talking about training and doing it my own way, like nobody ever took me aside and was like, let's look at your physical anatomy and see. It was more like, you're not working out hard. You don't want to do these things. And I was actually in pain, and I didn't have the resources or anyone telling me like, this is the exercises we need to work on. Like that luckily came later in life, and I found some really good physios and help. But at that time it was like, okay, well, you need to lift more. You're not lifting enough. And it's like, okay, well, it hurts when I do that. So I felt like no one listened to me. And I think that's very common. I think that we need to listen to young athletes more and try to unpack what they're saying, because they might not know how to explain what they're feeling. They might just be like intuitively, no, I don't want to do that, because they don't know why, and it's like, because I feel out of balance, I don't want to do that. And sometimes we're like, well, then you need to do that because you need to, or like, how about?
It's almost like, well, we see that you can't do this, and here's ways that we can kind of work around it without getting to the core reason why you can't do it, in the first place too, right?
Yeah, we should probably be like, oh, I wonder why you can't do that. Like, does it hurt when you do that? And start asking more questions instead of being like, okay, well, that's why you need to do it. So yeah, I started competing and doing better and better, and my hip wasn't bothering me as much. But then I crashed, and my knee started bothering me. Which is funny because I had gone, after seeing the first doctor, had gone to Dr. Philippon at the Stedman Clinic, and we had done a consult, and he was sort of like, it's not that bad. You have a labrum tear, but I don't want to do surgery before the Olympic year, because this was the year before the 2006 Olympics. And
It's Torino,
yeah, Torino.
Yeah.
And I had won a world championship medal already, which was like kind of a surprise win. I had got 2 bronzes that year, and my hip was still bothering me. So I, at that point, went and had a consult with Dr. Philippon, and he was sort of, through his consultation, not recommending surgery. I don't think I went there for surgery anyway. I was just like, okay, I still have this pain. Let's figure it out. Right. Like, I wasn't in a place where I was crippled or anything.
Yeah. And he was obviously a legend. He's a legend, and was with the US ski team. And it made sense for him to look at it at that time.
Yeah. So we decided together, this was non-surgical, especially because the Olympics were this year. Mm-hmm. And we'll just monitor it. And so I started doing more training and physical therapy, and it was feeling better and better. And then I think it was like a month before the Olympics, I crashed in a very low light situation in St. Moritz. It was like some rollers, and I was just doing a warm up and didn't see it. And I hurt my MCL and ended up getting an MRI and everything, because it was pretty tender, and that just kind of ended up nagging. I didn't have any instability. It was like kind of a minor injury, but for some reason my body was like extra sore. There was no instability, but it was extra sore. So going into those Olympics, I was like kind of more focused on my knee. And when that season ended, my MCL just wasn't getting better. And that was sort of we had a phone call and was like, oh, well, your MCL is probably not getting better because of your hip instability. So why don't you come in and we'll check that out, and maybe we'll clean up your hip, and then your MCL will probably get better.
Right.
And that's kind of what happened. I went and got a scope, and then I never really thought about my knee after that.
Yeah. And you mentioned it the other day, you were good for a while, right, on that hip, and you, I think you ended up having a second scope at some point, right, on there, but you ended up doing really well after that.
The first season back was really good.
Yeah.
I think that's because the surgery does really work, and I have a lot of teammates that got the same surgery that don't have hip dysplasia. So I think going like fast forward, I was 21 and then at 30 again, like I think it was 9 years later, but I still, those first 2 years was really good. And then I started having more and more pain. So I think that I really did well with the surgery, but because of the dysplasia, it was more and more wear and tear.
Yeah. And I mean, in defense of the entire field of hip arthroscopy, that was still relatively new in that we didn't discover the potential ramifications of doing anything as far as arthroscopy. And not to say that you shouldn't have done it one way or the other, but I think we know a lot more now about hip dysplasia in the world of arthroscopy and than we did kind of even back then, right? Because
I mean, when I first did that, I didn't have the opportunity of like nobody was doing stem cells. I mean, you heard about it happening in other countries, and I was, but nobody was ever like, oh, maybe you should go do this. I mean, barely. I had been doing PRP, but not a ton of it, and so I think even. When was that? I mean, that was a long time ago now, 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, if I would know now, I probably would have held off on the surgery a little longer and tried to do, especially because I had just won an Olympic gold medal and I still had 4 more years to the next Olympics. I probably would have held off and done some more conservative methods to sort of hold off on that surgery?
Well, I talk about therapeutic windows all the time, and especially in professional athletes, like you only have a certain amount of time to kind of act. And sometimes you're in that window kind of like Torino, where it's like, okay, well, if I have a surgery, I'm definitely going to miss this window, or I'm just definitely going to miss this Olympics or miss this competition or miss this World Cup. However, if you're at the end of the season, your off season is only a short period of time. And so it's like you want to do as much as you can in that window to make sure that you're going to be good, not only just for that next season, but for kind of the rest of your career too, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, maybe I could have tried this, and this, but where I am in my career, it's like, that probably was the best decision at that time. And it's easy to look back and be like, I could have done that, and that, but ultimately.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that when I was 21, a lot of the athletes were like retiring at 28. I mean, I didn't think like, oh, I'm going to be doing this till I'm 40. I mean, Lindsey Vonn is 40 now.
And wild?
She's
oh my gosh.
coming back. And it was looked at, is looked upon as crazy, but I don't think it's crazy at all. I think that if you can sustain your career for a long time, we just get better and better. I feel like if you look at endurance, like we need to look more at that endurance athletes are 40, 50 years old at their peak. Yeah. And just because we're in these like high impact sports, I don't think that means that you need to retire young. I think that we're getting stronger and stronger, and we have so many more tools available to us that it's like, we shouldn't be looking at that age. I mean, burnout for sure is a factor. Yeah. But if you can get beyond that, like
if you still have gas in the tank and you still are kind of emotionally, psychologically, kind of mentally in it, we have the power and we have the knowledge now and the capabilities to keep the body going longer and longer.
Yeah, definitely. And there's no reason why not to, if you want to do it.
Yeah. So you kind of staying on the theme of, unconventional, like most of your career, you lived on Maui and you trained on Maui. And I remember obviously when I met you, you were living on Maui, and I remember there being a lot of drama around that. And I remember there was a lot of skeptics in that and people commenting about that and kind of attaching your success to it or attaching your failures to it, right? Like people judging that one way or the other. I know a lot of your trainers are out there. I know, like, tell me a little bit more of that. Is that just the same thing, your intuition just saying, hey, you know what, like, even though I'm a winter sport athlete and I'm a ski racer who grew up in the mountains, like I want to live on the islands and this is where I'm going to be at my best in order to continue to have success in this sport.
Yeah, I think it kind of all ties back to my hip. I was in pain and March, April came around after the season and living in the mountains. There's a ton of snow still, and I loved to do outdoor things. I loved to ski. I loved to hike and climb, and those kind of things hurt me. And so it made me depressed. And so I knew that like being in Hawaii was my happy place. I could do stuff in the ocean. I could still be active and outside, but not have pain. And that was what really drew me to the ocean. The shoulder season's hard in the mountains. I think a lot of people, if they have the opportunity, wouldn't live in the mountains in shoulder season, especially in Tahoe. I mean, if you get a really big season of snow, it's muddy until June. And we only get a really small window off. Honestly, ski racing is one of the most difficult, time-consuming, straining sports there is. You barely get any time off. If you're not in the gym training already after the season's over, like, you're behind. Like, your body needs to be physically ready to handle like whatever 3G forces and turns, and it's very physically demanding. So I knew that I just felt better if I could stop the season, take a little break, and then start training again. So that's what the islands brought to me. That's what living in Maui at sea level in the humidity, it just felt good. And my body needed that. I needed to recharge my battery. I needed the oxygen. I needed the healing. And it was easier to do that there.
Yeah. And you obviously had an incredible team out there with, I know at some point you were working with Scott Sanchez, and then of course with Kazuko and Sam and that team out there as well. And I know you kind of bounced back and forth, but was that also just intuition? You're like, hey, you know what? This season I need more power and strength, and I'm going to do this style. And then this season I'm going to kind of focus on whether it's mobility and core. I know there was a little bit of a difference kind of going back and forth.
Yeah, it just depended on my body, but it really started with the fact that we didn't have the resources with the US ski team at the time, because again, this was 20 years ago and we didn't have the center of excellence. Now they have a beautiful training center in Park City, and they encourage all the athletes to be there, and they have physical therapy and tons of resources there and really great rehab equipment. But that was built, 15 years ago. And I, at the time, had never had a personal trainer. There was still group training going on in Park City with the US ski team, but there wasn't like one-on-one attention. And that's what I found with Scott Sanchez. I mean, that was a crazy story because my dad loved to windsurf, and we ended up in Maui, and he had a friend of ours, like a good friend now, was plastering his house, and he was like, oh, you don't know his Italian guy. Like, you don't know this guy who has a gym at his house. He trains all the Red Bull athletes, and he used to ski race. And we were like, what? That's so random. So Scott Sanchez was the ski coach for the Japanese ski team at the Nagano Olympics. And he married a windsurfer, which is how they ended up in Maui. And he grew up ski racing, and he had all the background in skiing, and he was, used all of that knowledge of weight training and being physically ready for sport and transferred it into windsurfing. And he was training all the best windsurfers in the world. Yeah. And so I got connected with him, and we started training, and it was, I think, super fun project for both of us, because Scott had been out of the ski world for a while. Yeah. And I just loved being in Maui, and that's kind of where I met all my friends and started training. And he was so good at making an individual program for me and doing the things that didn't keep me bored. Like, he was really good at adapting to my needs. And so we were a really good team, and I loved training there. And so, I feel like the ski team or any big organization sometimes doesn't like it when you do something different, which I find insane, because it was like, I'm an athlete. I was actually willing to spend my own money on this. I was paying him to train me. Whereas, like, of course I could have gotten it for free from the US ski team and moved to Utah, but I didn't find the same one-on-one adaptability, like ingenuity that I was getting with training in Maui. And so, it kind of baffled me that I wasn't like, wait, why aren't you guys embracing this? Like, I'm going out of my way to put my resources into becoming a better athlete and enjoying my time at home. And
was there resistance there? So they obviously weren't supporting it, but was there actually resistance? Or did you feel like there was resistance?
I think there was a lot of resistance. I tried to turn off the noise. I feel like I wasn't, especially when things weren't going good. It was like one of those things, it was like, I think that Scott could probably speak better to this, but it's like, praising us for our success. But then when things were going wrong, it's like, you should probably come out here and pointing the fingers. Yeah. But like, we had a lot of success. The first year I started training with him, I won 2 bronze medals at World Championships, and I was not a favorite. And then the next year I won the Olympics, and we had just started working together. And so, a lot of the success did come from that and peaking at the right time. And then when things weren't going well, the finger gets pointed and like, you should come do our thing. And, it's not necessarily that what they were doing was bad, but it was just not as individualized as what I needed. And so I found like it was very serendipitous that I had those tools available for me in Maui. And that was really cool. And that was the one thing, like we talk about overtraining. That was like one thing I was like, you got to stop training. That was one thing I was always getting in trouble for, is like, you got to stop doing too much. But I don't know. I mean, looking back, it was like, that was fun. I felt like I was tired after. I loved being out in the water. And I don't know if I necessarily think I was overtraining. It just maybe seemed like that.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what you said at the beginning, is like you were training, but you were also living kind of the most fulfilling life that you could, that you know, whatever would bring you joy and happiness in that, which was getting in the water and enjoying the sun and being with your friends, while at the same time finding the window of time to work with someone who's obviously well qualified to keep you going and keep you charging. So, on the hip theme, I want to kind of continue forward, because I get a lot of patients that I actually, I reference you because, and we talked about this the other night, the decision as you get closer and closer to, you know, a joint that is kind of breaking down and a joint that isn't serving you, and you've tried all the conservative stuff and you're running out of options, and you don't really know what to do, and what they're telling you isn't working, and the alternative or the option is potentially replacing a joint, especially at a young age. I was in and around a lot of those discussions, and I know the family was, and everyone was, and had an opinion about what to do, including Dylan, you know, who was around at that time. I'd like to unpack a little bit about that, because I don't think you and I really kind of dove into that. And I know you've always been someone who really wanted to know and understand all the different options, but even make those decisions on your own or using your team to kind of make those big decisions. But I reference you a lot with patients who are young and who are faced with, unfortunately, having to make a big decision by you know, replacing a joint or doing a major surgery. Can you go back to that a little bit, right, with regards to how much pain you were in and how you were able to mentally block it out and continue to, because towards the tail end of your career, like, you could barely walk, but then you can get on skis, and you were able to rip on skis and still do really well. And it was almost like, I don't want to say you were in denial on it, but you almost were able to block it out so much that that it wasn't even on your radar for the longest time. So.
Yeah, I think that, gosh, I mean, a couple things of what you said. One, I think I wish I knew more about joint replacement earlier, because I didn't realize how bad my joint was and how easy a joint replacement was, especially when it comes to the hip. And two, like the function of a hip is so multidimensional that walking was so hard for me, but locking it in and skiing and really like trying to just get those muscles strong enough to support me, that was like, oh, I felt like I could do that. But I do wish that I knew that I had more options before, and that I had educated myself on more what exactly a joint replacement was, because I think that especially a hip replacement seemed like this giant surgery, but in the end, it's really just a ball and socket and a rod in your leg. Like, it's really not that much, I feel.
Yeah.
like.
Especially now with the anterior approach. I think, was it Dr. Mata did yours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the anterior approach. And it's just,
And the other thing that I feel like we should think about when we're dealing with athletes, it's like, how many years are you asking for back? Because a lot of the complications with joint replacements, or you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like one of the biggest things that was being talked about was the, you know, if you put the rod in, we're worried about the femur breaking. But that's because your joint, because your bone density degrades. But like right away, like that's probably not going to happen in the next couple of years.
Right. Yeah.
That might be like further down the road. Yeah. But like, I don't know why. I don't think it's necessarily something that you should be worried about the first year in the short term. Yeah. So that was the biggest thing for me, is like, if you get a joint replacement, like we're worried your femur might break, and then whatever that's way worse.
Yeah.
With complications.
You're talking about like the ski team.
Yeah,
right?
the ski team and like
and
if
the
I
ability
would
to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of wish I knew that I had that option. I wish it was like, oh, your hip's kind of bad, but like you could probably just get a hip replacement instead of trying all this other stuff. And like, am I glad I tried the other stuff? Yes, but maybe right away because I still had time. Maybe I should have done that surgery. And then in 6 months when it was like so bad and not getting better, that I should have thought like, okay, maybe let's just do a replacement and try to do the Olympics, because I did 2.5 years after this surgery of suffering basically because I thought that I could heal the cartilage that was beyond healing.
Yeah.
I was hoping for a miracle, but I mean, we were all hoping for a miracle and the miracle just didn't happen. And I should have recognized that earlier, because I did end up getting the replacement like 2 years after that, and I felt amazing. And honestly, I never even did the physical therapy or strength training that I should have after, because right away I had kids. But just seeing how I feel now with literally doing nothing, like if I would have put just as many hours into rehab and training after the replacement, I'm sure I would have been stronger than ever.
Yeah. I felt like, so you used the word suffering, and I'd say I agree from an outsider's perspective, because it definitely looked like you were suffering while still kind of pushing and charging. And I think you're absolutely right. At least what I saw in that scenario, and I was super early, I can't remember the exact year, but definitely early in my career, not confident, well established enough to maybe step in the way that I think I would have stepped in now, right? To help, I guess, provide information for you to make that decision earlier than you actually did. Because I agree, it's something that I saw, but at the same time didn't really feel it was appropriate for me to kind of step in, because there are miracles and there are things that can happen.
I was skiing on one leg though. It was crazy, but I was determined. I'm like, maybe if I ski on one leg, that one day my body will wake up and know what I'm doing. And unfortunately, but also very fortunately, that's kind of what happened on my first surgery. When I first repaired my labrum, it was sore, and I was crying that like they told me I could ski so much earlier, because it was like, oh, you can get back on snow in 4 or 5 months, and I was back on snow and like crying. And then I went home and came back to the next ski camp and was like, fine. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I just power through this and just get my body used to it again, like it's going to heal and I'm not doing anything wrong.
It worked before.
And it'll work before. But like I was 10 years older and it was probably way worse. Like I know it was way worse. And so it's just hard, because when you're in it and you don't have anyone suggesting something else, it's kind of difficult. So looking back, I'm like, I wish someone would have said, maybe you should get a hip replacement, because I probably would have been fine and I would have had way less suffering. And at least at that point, I could have made a better decision on if I'm going to continue or not. Because at that point, I was just like, everyone was just feeling so sorry for me, but they were like, I guess we're going to let her try. And that's kind of, that was a really hard time in my career too, because I was so adamant. I'm like, I gave so much to you guys, just let me do this. Mm-hmm. And they were really hesitant to let me, because
You mean let you continue?
Yeah, let me continue and race and travel and pay for all the stuff. And it's like, right now, like, that's ridiculous. I've done so much for the team. Like, just let me try. Mm-hmm. And so we worked it out and they let me, but everyone was very hesitant. And like, I appreciate the opportunity that I was continued to be given, but I feel like I learned so much about grit and doing hard things, and you can do hard things. But I also wish that I would have just gotten my hip replaced and then tried to do hard things on that, because I think I would have at least felt good and could walk places, but you never know until you get there. I feel like that's my advice. And I get people flooding my Instagram like, oh, I heard you had a hip replacement. And I'm always like, well, what do you want to do? Like, be good now or wait 10 years to when you're older and you're going to have more pain in other joints of your body? Do you want to be good then? So I'm like, just like, imagine what you want to be doing today and tomorrow and deal with what you have going on now, because we really have the tools to stay young and younger longer, but you're not going to be young forever. And I'd rather live the peak moments of my life in good health.
Yeah. I mean, from in my world, it's such a balance, and your story is exactly why I reference it to patients all the time, because yeah, I think in a perfect world, and my kind of subspecialty even specifically is to try to preserve joints as long as we can, right? Joint, preservation, cartilage restoration, and to keep our joints our joints as long as we can. However, with quality of life being our North Star, if we aren't making progress and making progress soon with these conservative options, let's talk about what a joint replacement is. Yeah, I mean, yes, they're overprescribed, but in a lot of cases like yours, quality of life could have been restored a lot sooner if, we would have had that conversation a little earlier.
Yeah.
And I think that what you said is exactly right, is like, are we going for quantity or are we going for quality, right? Obviously, ideally we'd want both, but like, I kind of hate the notion, and I get a lot of young patients, young athletes that have beaten up their joints for a long period of time who unfortunately are beyond the capabilities of me and some of the modalities that we have to keep their joints going. But I hate the notion of, well, just wait till it's bad enough. Just sit down and stop doing what you're doing, wait till it's bad enough, or wait till you're 45, or wait till you're 55, or wait till you're 60, and then take care of it right at that point. And I'm like, what is that quality of life then for that next 10 to 15 years while you're sitting around festering, decreasing your activities, not doing all the things that you love to do, right? Becoming a shell of yourself, losing your identity in it, and then get the treatment.
I know.
It's gnarly.
I mean, I was imagining chasing after kids. I knew the next thing for me was to have kids, and I'm like, I can't even run. Like, how am I going to chase after a kid?
Right.
That's
I went back and
so hard.
I watched your you had which I recommend you should probably get back and do it. You had a YouTube channel, and which is amazing, and you vlogged your surgery. And
that was funny.
Yeah, and I remember even just leading up to it, you're riding your scooter to the surgery, or to your appointment, to your consultation to go see Dr. Mata, and you had your scooter. And I remember it kind of threw me flashback that you were charging, you were on your scooter everywhere. You couldn't even walk. It was that bad.
By the way, actually, that brings me to something that we all kind of deal with now, is like people with disabilities or abilities. I don't know the politically correct way of saying it now is like, we should just be so respectful. Like, I was getting hate for having a scooter, and it's like, I don't want to be on this scooter.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. Like in the airport and stuff.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, that was funny, but like I would bring it in the airport and I'd get yelled at.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to be on this scooter. I literally need this for mobility. And I don't know, this is totally a segue, but it's kind of like when you're having, I just feel like we should all be just more accepting of people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, stop judging it. Right? Yeah.
Stop judging it and be like, I'd rather not be in this, but so thanks.
Yeah.
Let's just be respectful.
I see it all the time. Even like sometimes I'll catch Jet and River, like we'll be behind someone in a kind of a tight space, and they're kind of a cane walk, and they're just trying to push back. I'm like, no, like relax. We're gonna get off this plane. They'll be okay. Give them some space and give them some time. Like, you have no idea what they're dealing with. You have no idea what their pain is and what they've been through to even be able to get on this plane. It's gnarly. Were you gonna pull up something?
I was pulling up the YouTube.
Oh yeah, no worries. It was really. I just happened to pull it up because I remember you were doing some the vlog from the surgery before. It was so
6
good.
6 years ago.
It was so good.
I know. I need to do more of those. It's just so like anything.
I liked it. It was awesome.
Stick to it. It was right up there though. BTS. That one.
Yeah, that one.
Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is it. She's on her scooter.
It's a little long.
So I am headed to...
If anyone hasn't seen this, check this out.
This is clinic.
Yeah.
And I've talked to my doctor once on the phone, but I've actually...
Yeah, and Dylan walking around in the background.
Not really wanted to pay too much attention to this.
Yeah, it was funny, but I feel like the funniest part of that is the drugs you get in surgery. They always make you say the funniest things. I was definitely hyping up Masi. I'm like, I know my brother-in-law.
It's like you're rolling back on drugs. You're like, my brother-in-law's a doctor.
And then I was like the funniest thing that kind of, I just remember being like, I can't feel my feet when I'm with you, but I like it. And I don't know why I thought that was so funny. Because they had to put those big boots on.
Yeah.
Because they like stretch your legs wherever, God knows where. But that was so funny.
You also are as funny. You're saying, April and Masi, they're not here. And I don't know why they're not here, but I guess since he has 8 surgeries of his own, I guess you can go to cover there. I was like, oh, I didn't know you wanted to. I would have totally been there.
Oh, so funny.
You rocked that.
Yeah. I like them the surgery too when I was like, will you film some? They
Yeah.
had
They
the thing.
they had the
And they're
camera the entire
like,
time.
you have some really dense bones.
Oh, yeah,
they
I
like
saw that.
couldn't get the drill out.
No, so yeah, they it's this corkscrew. I saw that part. It's this corkscrew in order to pull out your femoral head. So they make a cut, and then they
Yeah.
have to put a corkscrew into your femoral head to pull it actually out of your socket while you're in surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to take the head off of the corkscrew, and because the bone was so dense, they couldn't get
Yeah.
the head off the corkscrew. It was so gnarly. I was like,
cool.
I remember seeing that, but it was like so long ago that I forgot. And I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm like
Yeah.
watching it in the middle of the night.
It was fun.
There's this, I've mentioned it before, and Michael Dre talks about a lot, is this kind of identity foreclosure concept with athletes, and not just athletes, people in general, where when they are very good and are involved in a sport or something at such an early age, it becomes a part of you, and you end up kind of closing off your identity to other things. I would say that I don't necessarily think that was, at least based on an outsider's perspective, true for you, because it seems like you've held on to a lot of other things, not just sports, but ski racing was seemingly just throughout your, at least, even into the peak of your career, was a part of you. But as I see it in a lot of athletes, it's their sole identity, and you were able to hold on to other things, or at least allow yourself to pursue other things at that same time. Is that something? How does that resonate with you? Or is that something that was intentional? Because the transition here is into what you're doing now, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
surfing and foiling and charging, and obviously being a mother is towards the end of your career. Was that a tough transition out?
I think it's really difficult. I mean, I don't know if there's anything that will be as, I guess, personally fulfilling,
Mm-hmm.
soul fulfilling. Now being a mom, I love
Mhm,
it. I
mhm.
love having kids, and we have 3 kids, and that's the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But just from I don't know, what I was born to do, and getting up and competing and working hard to be a better ski racer. It wasn't my identity, but I loved it. And I loved being, having moments of being the best in the world. And it wasn't just the attention. I think it's just the purpose, you train hard and you get up and work and go to work doing something you love. And I think that's something that I struggle with, is okay, what's my next job going to be? Not that I don't love being a stay-at-home mom. Basically, that's what I am. And I love it. And we homeschool, and I'm really proud to fulfill that purpose. And I'm excited for that. But I also feel like I see the end already, even though they're so young. Even though I have a 1-year-old, I'm like, that's going to go so fast. I mean, 10 years. And so there's definitely times where I'm like, what's my next identity? What can I do? How can I serve a purpose to this world? So yeah, I think it's hard, and I can see how it's hard. I think that being an entrepreneur is also hard, and I feel like because of what I did as an athlete, I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to do all these things, but I'm also very scattered, and I don't have the time. I think with kids, like you can be disciplined. Of course, I'm disciplined, but I don't really want to give up that part of me right now because I have kids, and I want to still do that. I want that to be my first priority. And I still love to surf and stuff and be outside. So yeah, I think that I do the best I can for that to not be my identity, but I feel like it's also difficult. I think that especially looking back, sometimes I'm like, well, that was the peak of my life and my productivity and career. I think even financially, being an athlete, it's how am I ever going to have another job that pays me as well? I was fortunate enough to be paid really well as a ski racer. So I think that's kind of daunting, because it's especially if you measure your self-worth and how well you do financially, which is hard for us not to, if we're being honest. But yeah, I think that it's kind of taught me a lot about still looking into within myself of what makes me really happy and being present. And money can buy you fancy things, but it can't buy you time. And that's something that even the most successful people in the world always say. So I try to bring it back and be really grateful for the time that I get with my family and the fun adventures that we get to go on, because we're still so blessed.
Right. And even just the culture at which you're bringing your kids up into right now. And obviously every time I go there and visit, it takes me a little bit to settle in, but I always drop into that and recognize how powerful that is, right? To be able to bring your children up and expose them to that kind of culture, to where they truly are seeing what is the most important thing
I think
in
that
life.
goes
And
back to like the financial part of thing. It's like money doesn't buy happiness. The place where we live is like some of the happiest people in the world, and they're happy with nothing. I mean, they're like, I feel like in Fiji, so we're talking about Fiji for everyone who's a little confused. I feel like in Fiji, it's like they get their paycheck and it's like, oh, how can we enjoy this? It's not like, oh, I mean, for better or worse, how can we save? But they don't necessarily need it as much because they have their village and they have everything they need. And when they get money, it goes to enjoying it with others. Like they share so much. It's so communal there. And just having the opportunity to be around their joy for life is like, it's amazing. And that's what everyone says when they come to Fiji. It's like the people, they're just so happy and they don't need much. And they teach us all that it's about family and togetherness. And my kids get to be a part of that and they love it. And hopefully they love the water as much as I do.
Yeah. It's coming around. They are.
It is. It's coming around.
Yeah. I feel that. And I know exactly what you're saying too. Moana, over the last couple of years has made it's been an adjustment for sure, but it's made a shift in me, because I was gas pedal down. Obviously River was 8, 9, like we were through kind of the toughest part, right? Yeah. The 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, kids are in school, and I found a lot more time to build, to grow, to have space to be able to get creative with what do I want to do? How can I add more purpose? How can I do better? How can I continue to grow and continue to add as much value as I can? And then all of a sudden Moana came, and it was just like not only with just like involvement and time, but really made me kind of check in and be like, oh, like I either can kind of lean into this because of recognizing with the 2 older boys, it went so fast, or completely miss out on this, opportunity to be able to connect for these short period of years, right? Yeah. Because I'm worried about building and doing something else and traveling and educating and getting, further into my career. And I literally had to have a moment where I was just like, you know what, like I can do, I'm not obviously not both, but I can put a lot of the stuff on hold, and I can not let go of these things that are part of what I want to do in my identity and growth. And because that's ultimately when it comes down to my joy and happiness, it is what you just said, is continue to push forward and utilizing my skills and my knowledge in and around my world to add value. And just because I'm putting a pause button on that kind of right now and being as present as I can with, yes, my older kids, but also Moana, given that I recognize how fast this goes, that'll always be there, right? And as a brother, I see that with you and your kids. It's like, it's going to go fast. You know that, right? Yeah. And it's always going to be you. Like you could, whatever you set your mind to, you're going to do it. I know that. Well,
I think it's also helpful to have like successful parents later in life. I mean, my mom reinvented herself when she was 60. Yeah. I think in her mid 50s or 60s, she started a real estate career, and she could have taken that to wherever she wanted. And it was just kind of those examples. I think that it's also an example that you can set a good example for your kids, and like we all just can set a good example for each other. And it's always going to be there. There's, career is always going to be there, and family is just something that you can't take for granted, those moments and that time. And I'm really just digging into that because I know how fast, having a 6-year-old, I feel like it was just yesterday. So it sounds crazy and sentimental and funny, but I just know that it's so short, and our life is meant to be lived with a purpose. And it's as long as, we hope it's very long. And
yeah, absolutely. And quality over quantity.
Yeah. Quality over quantity.
Yeah. And so, foiling real quick before I end foiling.
Well, I was going to say quality over quantity, age, whatever. I love sports.
Yes.
Foiling is so fun. I love that I can be in my 40s now and still pushing myself as an athlete and learning new sports. And
how cool to keep learning something, right? And keep getting better at something. So.
It is so fun. And it's also like, I feel like that goes back to purpose. Like I need that. I need to keep progressing at something and pushing myself and like, and then comparing, of course, I have to sit back and be like, okay, I'm not 20. Like, cause there's these 20-year-olds that are amazing and they look really cute in a thong bikini, whatever. And like, it always teaches me the lessons to be yourself. I mean, when I had my podcast, it was just be yourself.
Yeah,
and that's so kind of, I think that's where my confidence come from. It's like, I can still be me and proud of myself and whatever. I don't need to compare myself to others. It's all about just doing what you love and being proud of it. So yeah, it's fun. I love to push myself. Of course, I want to beat the younger generation. And I always feel like I have the ability to, but not the time because I'm chasing 3 kids. So it's fine. I give myself some grace there. But yeah, foiling, surfing. Living in Tavarua, we get a lot of legends passing through. So I am so inspired by Lane Beachley.
Yeah.
She is such a badass. And I love surfing with her because she is.
Is she 50?
Yeah. She's, is she 50 now?
I
Yeah.
think so,
She's got to be in her 50s. And I'm like, okay, she will charge big waves. She will, we have her career there.
She's an Aussie
too.
surfer, right? Yeah.
And she comes to Fiji and is like, she's 53.
Yeah.
And she will surf ledge cloud break. And I mean, it's scary. Like the last time we went out there together, she's like, you got to come with me. And I went and I was like, I think I caught one wave and crashed. But it was so inspiring because I'm like, why as women do we have to slow down? Like there's all these 60, 70-year-old guys still getting barreled at cloud break. Like, why do I have to think that's too crazy? Like, and outside of my realm. Like, no, I'm going to continue to push myself and become a better surfer and live in the moment and charge and learn, because I think learning is a huge part of staying safe out in the ocean. Learning to crash, learning your limits, learning how to deal with circumstances that are not what you expect.
And you have obviously incredible coaches with Dylan and everyone else out there too. But you have what I think a lot of people struggle with as they, speaking for myself as well as other adult learners kind of in surfing who are still progressing with it, is that background in skiing and ski racing, right? To where you understand risk really well, and you understand how to control your nerves in situations where I think most people would be flying off their hinges, right, as well. And I'm sure, I mean, you don't have to get into too much, but I'm sure you take a lot of that into critical situations out there, at cloud break. So.
I mean, I definitely think that mindset and training and understanding situations, it's pretty universal. So my biggest thing with training is training. That gives you the confidence. But if you're not training and you don't feel confident, then that's the reason why you're not feeling confident out there. And so it's like just getting the time in the water, and like, yeah, sure, younger kids will just go out there and throw themselves over the ledge and crash and think it's funny. And as you get older, you can't deal with as many crashes, or maybe you just see more bad things happen. So that's sort of in your mind, like, okay, well, yeah, worst case scenario is not actually just getting held under. I mean, like, my husband Dylan broke his ankle pretty bad. Like there's all sorts of bad things that can happen. So unfortunately that also comes with experience, as you experience more bad things. And so the possibilities seem greater that something bad can happen. But yeah, just having the mindset of patience. I think that's the biggest thing, is like, sometimes we're too hard on ourselves because that perfect moment doesn't come. And the experience of knowing that you have to put your time in, and eventually it'll come, and eventually you'll get that one wave. And also to be content. It's not about more.
Yeah.
When you get that perfect moment, really revel in it, understand it, appreciate it, and then, obviously hope for more, but not to get greedy, because I think that's what I see too much, is that people want it so bad. But like, just appreciate what you've already accomplished or what you get.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. We had a guy on Aloe Sliber. He's the one who was surfing Mavericks. Got towed into, I don't think they've officially set up, but potentially the largest wave in the world over at Luca Padua kind of towed him in. And he went out this last winter. It was his first trip out to Maui, a big wave surfer, and he'd never been out there. He ended up catching some nuts waves, but he said that exact same thing. It's just like, I'm just out here for the experience, and I'm just going to sit here. And if I catch a wave, I don't, but like, I know I'm just here in this present moment. And every single second I'm out here is a potential learning opportunity for me. And if I catch a wave, great. If not, I'm just grateful for being here because I know I'm better than I was before I even paddled out. So that was pretty special.
That's what surfing teaches you. I think that's what's amazing about surfing. You get to sit out in nature and learn so much from the ocean. And it's okay if you don't catch a wave.
Yeah.
Because I find those are the moments where you get the most frustrated. It's like, I got to paddle for a wave just to catch one. And then it's like, you get smoked and you're like, why did I paddle for that wave? I should have just been happy to just go in. I learned enough already. Yes. Next time I'll be better.
I have had that conversation with you out there.
Yeah.
But you're incredibly patient. I love being out there with you because you keep me, I think you and I have always connected on our frothing, which I love about you. Thank you for, I appreciate that there's someone else in the family that, froths like I do, because every time we're out there, you are such a good motivator for me because I can get stuck on the island and hanging with the family and the boys. And you're like, Masi, let's go. Yeah. I'm like, all right, let's go. and just being out there with you. I like to kind of sit in your hip and just learn from you because you do log a lot of hours out there, and I can get a little antsy just because one, I'm not as qualified to be out there as you and good, but two, I just
Masi charges.
I get this weird anxiety of like, I'm spending time away from the family doing all that stuff. And the last thing I need to do is just sitting here. And I struggle a little bit with that, meaning like what you just said is inspiring me because I just mean like, you know what, just be present and be grateful just to be out there and whatever. If I get one, great. If not, then I'm going to hang out with my sister-in-law. Awesome.
Well, I think that you also need to remember that time for yourself makes you a better human, and we all need to remember that. No, just like we all need to focus on ourselves a little so that we can be better partners and better parents, and it gives us the energy and the grace to accept others and not get stressed out. I feel like sometimes we forget that. It's like spend a little bit of time on yourself so that you can give more back to others.
That's great. I see that with you and Dylan, meaning I see like I will be hanging out with him and he's like, Julia needs to go surf, or vice versa. You're like, Dylan needs some.
I'm like, it's okay. And that's what I think the struggle.
You guys are really supportive of each other on
that he has when he's working so hard. I see it, which is like so important to get the time for yourself too, because I know with kids, it's like, okay, I don't have time for myself because if I'm not working, I need to spend time with them, and you feel guilty for doing something for yourself. But I think that as our culture, like we all need to accept, especially balance, and doing stuff for yourself is also part of balance.
Yeah. Are you, so I know you're surfing a ton and foiling a ton. Are you training out there too as well? Like what's your, not to put you on the spot, but regimen and I know we've had conversations in and around throwing weight and
I want to do more weight training. I feel so grateful for all the weight training I did when I was younger though, because it comes back so fast. I can lift so much heavy weight. But yeah, I think as I get older, I'm definitely on that health train. Like I need to lift heavy weights, and I love biking. I love riding the stationary bike. I love doing Peloton classes. So I try to fit that in. And I mean, my first priority is foiling, surfing, getting in the water. And then if I find myself bored, I want to get back in the gym more. So that's on the goals. It has been something I haven't been doing enough of, but it's definitely on the goal list. And I know it's going to benefit me in my future.
Yeah, for sure. I think ditto to all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're catching you're on an epic California road trip right now. Obviously, I know you posted a little bit about it, but you guys have been all over the place. We've had the opportunity. Thank you for bringing us out to Yosemite because that was such an awesome trip. And then you guys are headed up north, I guess, from here to
we're going to go see Dylan's family.
Yeah.
Trying to get it all in, but yeah, it's so fun. I think that's another thing I love to do with my family is go on adventures, because then you were forced to be present.
Yeah. It's not easy, is it?
No, it's not
easy at all. So, you guys are killing it.
But it's fun. Yeah. We're happy.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for, I know you guys got to get on the road, but thank you for sharing some time with me here. And I just, like I said at the very beginning, so inspired by you. I don't think I tell you enough. I love you and appreciate how your mind and how you approach life and how you approached your sport before, and that transition from skiing to obviously surfing and foiling, but not just that, being a mother, being a wife, being a sister to not only me, to April. I just am so grateful for all you've done for me and in my career and in my life, and supported me from the very beginning, and couldn't be more honored to have you on, because I truly love you and am inspired by you.
Thanks,
so,
Masi.
yeah.
Well, it's so fun, and it's such an honor for us. I mean, I think that you forget that it's, your work and your purpose speaks for itself. I think you can only tell people and recommend people so much, like to go see someone or to do something, but like it's the results that matter. And you've been proving that you're willing to think outside of the box, and you've helped so many people in our circle, in our world. And it's just amazing that you have the time, and we're grateful. I think it's just such an honor to be able to tell someone that I can recommend them to see my family for all the stuff that I've been dealing with. I'm an expert in orthopedic joints. And so it's so awesome that you guys are living your passion. And I love that you and my sister have the dream team of sports medicine. And I love that, I see in the future us just doing great things together.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm excited because I'm passionate about living a pain-free, healthy life.
Yeah.
So it's awesome to see you guys doing that. And it was so cool to see your clinic.
Yeah.
And even though getting my NAD was like so painful.
Oh my God. It gets deep.
I hope that I feel amazing.
Yeah. Oh, well, you got to come back. So we're going to be finishing the other one in Santana Row, like January, February, somewhere in there. So
I know. So cool.
So awesome to have that.
Yeah. We're so happy for you guys.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing some of your journey. I think our listeners would love to hear that. Just, we call it the process, because everyone has their own way of doing it, right? Their own process, and how to navigate injury, how to navigate surgery and recovery and health and optimization. And you're doing it Jules' way, and you always have been. And that's why I love you. So,
thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Masi.